He was a billionaire, yet in one careless moment, he lost something priceless, something that could have turned his entire world upside down. But it wasn't a bodyguard, a high-profile assistant, or a luxury executive who came to his rescue. It was a woman in torn work boots and a dust-covered scarf, a poor construction worker with calloused hands and a heart of gold. Why would someone with so little choose honesty over gain? And how did that one choice spark a life-altering connection? Settle in and discover how a billionaire found unexpected love in the most unlikely place, all because a stranger chose integrity. In a modest district of Legagos, a 24-year-old woman named Caroline woke up each morning long before the sun painted the sky. She'd twist a scarf tightly around her head, lace up her cracked boots, and walk the dry, uneven road that led to a half-built construction site. She wasn't just one of the crew. Caroline carried bricks on her head, mixed thick cement with a worn-out shovel, and heaved wheelbarrows full of sand through the blazing heat, all without a single word of complaint. Her life had been stitched together by hardship. At just 12 years old, she lost both parents in a tragic bus accident on their way back from a village trip. No relatives came. No extended family stepped up. She was left as the sole guardian of her younger brother Daniel, then 8, and little Blessing, who had only turned 6. From that moment forward, she became everything to them: sister, provider, protector, and mother. She sold bread near bus stops. When that failed to meet their needs, she did people's laundry. When that still wasn't enough, she approached a local mason and begged him to teach her how to work at a building site. That's how she ended up in construction, carrying cement just to keep food on the table. Even when her arms ached and her fingers trembled, she never cursed her fate. Some days, she'd climb to the edge of a high scaffold, sit alone, and murmur into the sky, one day it'll all be different. And that day, though she didn't know it, was closer than she imagined. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a different kind of life was unfolding. Vincent was 30 years old. Tall, composed, and fiercely private. He was the face on real estate billboards, the subject of business magazine covers, and the mind behind 2 booming property empires, one based in Nigeria, the other in the US. To the world, he had it all. But Vincent didn't like loud parties, flashy jewelry, or shallow chatter. He'd grown up in wealth, but he wasn't defined by it. His mother, a woman known for her soft-spoken wisdom, always told him, "Son, real wealth isn't in your bank account. It's in how you treat people, especially those with nothing to offer you." He'd carried that lesson like armor. And yet, despite his success, something was missing. Vincent had never truly fallen in love. He'd met dozens of women, glamorous, charming, poised. But the more he got to know them, the more he saw the same pattern: affection that masked ambition, kindness laced with calculation. They didn't want him, they wanted what he had. "I want a woman with virtue," he often said to himself. "Not one who chases my wallet, but one who understands struggle. Who sees me for who I am." That woman, however, wasn't in any high-rise or social circle. She was closer than he could imagine. Fate had already started pulling the strings. After spending over a decade building his name in the US, Vincent decided to return to Nigeria for a brief retreat. He wasn't coming back to show off or expand business. He just wanted silence, simplicity, 2 months of peace, some time to inspect his lands, and breathe freely for once. On one quiet morning, he woke up feeling unusually light. He slipped into a plain green t-shirt, jeans, and a face cap. No chauffeur, no designer watches. Just Vincent, the man, not the brand. "I just want a calm day," he murmured, picking up his car keys. He got into one of his basic black SUVs and drove himself to a local supermarket near one of his properties. Nothing fancy, just snacks, drinks, toothpaste, and essentials. He paid with a smile, exchanged a polite nod with the cashier, and tucked his black wallet securely into his back pocket. But as he walked toward his car, the wallet silently slipped from his jeans and landed on the pavement. Inside that wallet was everything: over $2,000 in cash, 2 foreign credit cards, his U.S. driver's license, Nigerian ID, and high-level business cards. Yet Vincent, unaware, got into his SUV, took a long sip of water, and drove away, completely at ease. Back at that same supermarket, another life was about to cross his path. Caroline had woken up feeling especially hungry that morning. Though money was tight, she decided to pass by the supermarket to buy a soft drink and a snack before heading to the construction site. She checked her bag twice to ensure the little cash she had was enough. After making her purchase, she stepped outside quietly, but something on the ground near the parking lot caught her eye. A black wallet. She paused. Looked around. Nobody seemed to be searching. No one looked panicked. She walked toward it cautiously, bent down, and picked it up. It felt heavier than most. Curiosity sparked, she opened it, and froze. It was filled with crisp foreign notes, important-looking cards, and what seemed like personal documents. Ah, she whispered to herself, who would drop something like this? She flipped through the contents carefully, found a few business cards, and tried to read one of the numbers. But the codes were international. No WhatsApp contact. No local Nigerian number. She even tried to dial one, no luck. It wouldn't connect. Caroline stood there for a while. She could have easily walked away. No one would ever know. But she couldn't. Her heart wouldn't let her. Without hesitating, she turned back inside and walked straight to the cashier. "Please," she said politely, "I just found this wallet outside near the cars. I think someone dropped it." The cashier blinked, stunned. "You mean someone lost this?" Caroline nodded and handed it over. "Yes, please. Give it to the security team. Maybe the owner will return." The cashier looked at her for a moment, surprised. "Wow. You're truly kind. Thank you." Caroline simply smiled and walked out, no name, no number, no expectations. A few streets away, Vincent was pulling into a fuel station. As the attendant greeted him, he reached into his back pocket, and stopped. It was empty. He checked again. Nothing. He turned to the passenger seat, the glove box, the back seat. Still nothing. His pulse raced. His expression darkened. "My wallet," he muttered, his voice cracking. Panic struck. Without another word, he jumped back into his car and sped off, racing back to the supermarket, whispering, "God, please, please let it still be there." Vincent pulled into the supermarket's parking lot, his nerves on edge. He stepped out of the SUV in one swift motion and headed straight for the counter inside, eyes scanning the area like he was searching for a lifeline. "Excuse me," he said to the cashier, his voice steady but urgent. "I was here earlier today, maybe an hour ago. I think I lost my wallet. Has anyone turned it in?" The cashier stared at him for a second, trying to place his face. Then her eyes lit up. "Yes. You bought snacks and some household things, right?" Vincent gave a slight nod, trying to control his breathing. "That's me." The cashier smiled. "You're lucky. A young woman found a wallet outside just after you left. She brought it to us and said it was lying in the parking lot." Vincent exhaled, shoulders dropping in relief. "Thank God, is it still here? Can I see it?" "One moment," she said, already turning to call someone. A tall man in a navy blue uniform soon approached the counter, his tag reading, "Mr. Amos." "Good evening, sir," he greeted Vincent politely. "Good evening," Vincent replied. "I was told you have my wallet. I came here earlier to shop. It must have fallen from my pocket." Mr. Amos nodded. "Yes, sir. A young lady returned a black wallet not too long ago. Do you have any way to prove it's yours?" Vincent was already reaching into his memory. "Yes. There are business cards inside with my name, Vincent Benjamin. You'll also see a small passport photo, U.S. driver's license, and 2 foreign cards. The security guard walked over to a drawer behind the counter and pulled out the black wallet. He opened it, checked the contents, and then glanced back at Vincent. "You're right. It's yours." Vincent gently took the wallet, opened it slowly, cash, cards, everything still inside, untouched. His voice came out softer now. "Thank you. But, the woman who returned it, do you know her name?" The cashier stepped forward, shaking her head with a smile. "She didn't leave any contact info. Just said she found the wallet and wanted to return it to the right person. Bought some snacks and quietly left." Vincent looked down for a moment, then reached into his wallet and pulled out a pen and a small piece of paper. He scribbled something carefully. "This is my phone number," he said, handing it to the cashier. "Please, if she ever comes back, give this to her. Tell her to call me." "I will, sir," the cashier nodded sincerely. Vincent then took out some Naira notes and gave them to both the cashier and the security officer. "Thank you. For keeping it safe. For being part of something that still feels honest." They both smiled, surprised by his gesture. Vincent stepped back toward his car, scanning the area once more, quietly hoping she was still around. But she was gone. That night, as the lights dimmed in his bedroom, Vincent lay in bed wide awake. He'd turned off the lights, but his thoughts wouldn't rest. He kept seeing that moment over and over, a young woman picking up his wallet, resisting temptation, and choosing to return it without recognition, without reward. "She didn't take a single thing," he whispered to himself. He stared at the ceiling, fingers laced across his chest. She could have changed her life with that money, but she chose honesty. He sat up, eyes still distant. "I don't even know her name," he murmured. "She deserves more than just a thank you. I hope she comes back." Weeks passed. 3 weeks later, Caroline walked through the doors of the same supermarket with a shopping list in her head and a little cash in her purse. She had saved just enough to buy groceries for Daniel and Blessing. Her face was tired, but her walk was steady. As she pushed the shopping cart forward, the cashier from that day noticed her instantly and began waving. "Excuse me, Ma," the cashier called out. Caroline didn't respond. Lost in thought, she kept walking until another shopper gently tapped her shoulder. "Hello, the cashier is calling you," the woman said kindly. Caroline turned around, surprised. The cashier hurried forward with a warm smile and handed her a folded piece of paper. "A man left this for you. The one whose wallet you returned. He asked me to give it to you if you ever came back." Caroline blinked, stunned. "He remembered?" "Yes, Ma. He seemed really serious about wanting to thank you," the cashier said with a nod. Caroline unfolded the note, a phone number, neatly written. She stared at it for a moment, her heart beginning to flutter. It had been 3 weeks. She had forgotten all about it. She tucked the paper gently into her shopping bag and finished her grocery run with her mind far from the aisles. Later that evening, after returning home, Caroline placed her bag in the corner and headed to the kitchen. Her sister, Blessing, began unpacking the items she brought home. As Blessing cleaned and sorted, she bundled up the plastic shopping bags and, without thinking, tossed them into the trash outside. Neither of them realized that the piece of paper, the phone number, was still inside. The next morning, Caroline felt lighter than usual. She smiled to herself as she recalled the paper the cashier had handed her. "Today," she said softly, "I'll call him." She opened her handbag to retrieve the number, but it wasn't there. Her breath caught. She froze, her mind tracing every step from the night before. Then she remembered, she had placed it inside the shopping bag. She rushed outside barefoot and called out, "Blessing." Blessing stepped in, drying her hands. "The paper bag I brought from the store, the one with the note in it." "Where is it?" Blessing hesitated. You mean the one you gave me last night? Caroline's voice cracked. Yes, the one with a small piece of paper inside. Blessing winced. I threw it out. Yesterday evening. Caroline's eyes widened. No. She sprinted toward the green bin at the edge of the street. Her heart pounded. She reached it, yanked open the lid, empty. The trash had already been collected. She stood still, paralyzed by the sight of the empty bin. She sank slowly to the pavement, her head bowed, eyes filling with tears. Why now? She whispered. Why like this? The tears slid down her cheeks, quiet and heavy. But after a moment, she wiped them with the edge of her sleeve and stood up. If it's meant to happen, she said to herself quietly, then it will. She thought about going back to the supermarket to ask again. But the idea felt desperate, and Caroline had too much pride to chase what wasn't certain. So she turned away, shoulders heavy, and walked slowly back home, still holding on to a quiet, stubborn hope. 2 weeks quietly slipped by. Life for Caroline returned to its usual rhythm, early mornings, late nights, sweat, and cement. She buried the memory of the phone number, of the lost chance, under layers of routine and survival. But somewhere deep in her heart, a tiny ember of hope still glowed. Then one Saturday morning, a neighbor knocked on her door. Caroline, the woman called, there's an outreach program happening today at the local government field. They're giving out food, books, and drinks. Some real estate company is sponsoring it. You should come with the children. Caroline hesitated only a moment, then nodded. We'll go. She, Daniel, and Blessing walked down to the gathering. The area buzzed with quiet energy. Volunteers handed out water, rice, beverages. Long queues moved slowly but peacefully. Caroline received a small sack of rice and a tin of tomato paste. As she turned to leave, her eyes scanned the refreshment table, and paused. A familiar face. The cashier from the supermarket was helping serve juice, chatting warmly with people in line. Caroline blinked. Could it be? The woman looked up, squinted, and then her face lit up. You, she said, pointing gently. You're the one who returned the wallet, right? Caroline nodded slowly, a smile forming. Yes. I'm the one. The woman beamed. Ah. You came at last. I gave you that paper, but did you ever call? Caroline's smile faded just a little. No. I lost it. I didn't mean to, but it got thrown away. The cashier's eyes softened with understanding, then leaned in slightly. Well, guess what? He's here. Caroline's heart skipped. He's here. Yes. He's the one funding the outreach today. Her breath caught. Her hand tightened around the rice pack. This moment she never expected, was suddenly right in front of her. The cashier glanced around quickly, then pointed discreetly toward a black SUV parked near the edge of the field. That's his car. He's sitting inside right now. Let me go and tell him you're here. Caroline's eyes widened. No, please, she said quickly, almost in a whisper. It's okay. I didn't come here for that. But the cashier was already walking away, grinning. Caroline stood frozen, hands clammy, heart pounding in her chest. 1,000 thoughts swirled in her head. What would she say? What if he didn't even remember her? Then, she saw it. The SUV door opened, and out stepped Vincent. He stood tall, scanning the area calmly as the cashier gestured in Caroline's direction. Then their eyes met. Vincent began walking toward her, slowly, but without hesitation. His expression wasn't one of surprise or doubt. It was one of quiet relief. I finally found you, he said gently when he reached her. Caroline lowered her gaze slightly and gave a soft, respectful smile. Good afternoon, sir. What's your name? Vincent asked. I'm Caroline. He nodded, repeating it in a soft whisper like he wanted to remember it forever. Caroline. I've been searching for you. You have no idea. She looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. I lost the number the cashier gave me. I put it in one of the shopping bags, but my sister threw it out by mistake. Vincent shook his head slowly, smiling. That's okay. Maybe this, today, wasn't an accident. He looked at her with something more than gratitude. There was genuine warmth in his eyes. How did you hear about the event? He asked. My neighbor told me, Caroline replied. She said they were giving out food, so I decided to come. Well, I'm glad you did. Vincent pulled out his phone and held it toward her. Please. Enter your number. With careful fingers, Caroline typed it in. As soon as she handed it back, Vincent gave her a quick missed call. Save my number, he said softly. Call me when you get home. Caroline nodded, her eyes shining. I will, sir. Before parting, Vincent reached into the car and pulled out a small brown envelope. He handed it to her with quiet sincerity. Just a little something. Use it for your groceries. Caroline took it with both hands, holding it close to her chest. Thank you, sir. May God bless you. He smiled and gave a small nod, then turned to speak with the organizers. Caroline turned toward the main road, her steps light, her heart full. At the bus stop, she waited a few minutes before boarding a yellow minibus headed to her area. It was already packed. She squeezed into a small seat at the back, holding her handbag on her lap and the sack of rice at her feet. As the bus moved, Caroline looked out the window, thinking of how surreal the day had become. When her stop came, the bus began to slow. Caroline quickly reached into her bag to get money for the fare. Her phone, which she had gently placed on her lap during the ride, got shifted aside. She lifted the edge of the envelope, found the money underneath, and quickly paid the driver. Madam, a beg, make you come down, the driver shouted, already eager to move. In the rush, Caroline grabbed her bag and the rice, stepped off the bus, and joined the stream of people on the street. The door slammed shut behind her. The bus rolled away, bouncing on the potholes. Inside, unnoticed, her phone slid from the seat to the floor. She had no idea what she had just left behind. Not yet. Back home, Caroline unpacked the groceries and reached into her bag, wanting to call Vincent, to say thank you again, to hear his voice. But the phone wasn't there. Panic bloomed in her chest. She opened every zipper, checked the rice sack, even looked under the chair. Then the realization hit her. The phone had been on her lap. She had stood up too fast. It was gone. Caroline sank to the floor, back against the wall, heart pounding. Her eyes reddened but no tears came. Just a deep ache. She closed her eyes and whispered through the silence. God, you are still faithful. Even in her loss, again, she chose to believe. Later that evening, in his spacious living room, Vincent sat with a quiet smile on his face. His thoughts kept drifting back to Caroline, her gentle voice, her modesty, the look in her eyes when he gave her the envelope. It wasn't the envelope that touched him. It was her heart. He picked up his phone and tapped her number, the one she had typed in herself just hours ago. He waited. But the phone didn't ring. Instead, it went straight to voicemail. This number is switched off, said the robotic voice. He frowned slightly and tried again. Still off. He leaned back on the couch, resting the phone on his lap. Maybe her battery's dead, he murmured. Or maybe she turned it off to sleep. 30 minutes later, he tried again. No luck. He went to bed feeling restless. All night, he tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling. A strange uneasiness began to creep into his chest. By morning, he still hadn't heard from her. His thoughts raced with possibilities. Did she lose her phone? Did she change her number? Or, was she avoiding him? Trying to shake off the heaviness, he got dressed and headed to the only place he knew might help, the supermarket. When he arrived, he walked straight to the counter. The same cashier greeted him with a warm smile. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning," Vincent replied, forcing a polite smile. "I need to ask you something. That young lady, Caroline, do you happen to know where she lives?" The cashier looked surprised, then shook her head. "No, sir. I'm sorry. She never told us. She just came in to shop and left." Vincent's shoulders dropped slightly. He nodded, his face unreadable. "Okay. Thank you." He turned and walked back to his car slowly, his mind spinning. He sat in the driver's seat for several minutes, staring out the windshield. Was she in trouble? Did something happen to her? He didn't know what to think. Eventually, he started the engine and drove home, feeling more lost than he cared to admit. 2 days later, hoping for some distraction, Vincent decided to visit a distant relative who lived on the edge of the city. He drove himself down a quiet road, winding through less developed parts of town. As he passed a row of small wooden stalls, something by the side of the road caught his eye. An elderly woman sat slumped beside a makeshift fruit stand. Her head rested against the wall, and a few bananas sat untouched on the table. Her frame was thin, her dress worn. At first, she looked like just another weary vendor. But then, something about her seemed familiar. Vincent slowed the car and leaned forward, peering through the windshield. No. It couldn't be. But his chest tightened with recognition. He gently pulled over, turned off the engine, and stepped out. He walked closer, eyes locked on her face. As he approached, the woman stirred and opened her eyes, startled. "Please, who are you?" she asked in a weak voice. Vincent's heart clenched. "It's me," he said softly. "Vincent. The son of Benjamin and Isabella." The woman stared at him, frozen. "Benjamin?" she repeated. He nodded gently. "Yes. My father is Benjamin. My mother is Isabella." Her lips parted in disbelief. Then, all at once, her face lit up. She placed her hands over her mouth and let out a small gasp. "I used to carry you on my back," she cried. "Your parents. I worked for them for years." Vincent smiled, eyes moist. "Yes, Mama. That's why you look so familiar. What are you doing here?" The old woman looked down. "It's a long story, my son." Vincent didn't ask for more. He simply reached for her hand. "Come. Let me take you home." She didn't hesitate. With great care, he helped her into the car, closed the door, and drove her away from that roadside, away from the struggle, the dust, the forgotten place she had been living in. When they arrived at his house, Vincent gave her fresh clothes, food, and a warm room to rest in. The next morning, he walked into her room with a gentle smile. "Good morning, Mama," he greeted. She sat up slowly, her eyes already filled with tears. "Good morning, my son." Vincent came closer, pulled out a clean handkerchief, and wiped her tears. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "You have no idea what you've done for me. You've pulled me out of shame. I had nothing left. Nothing." Her words hit hard. Vincent knelt beside her and held her hand. "You'll never suffer again. I promise." He meant every word. Later, he guided her to the living room. As she sipped hot tea, he sat across from her. "Mama," he said gently, "why were you sleeping out there? What happened?" The old woman took a deep breath, her eyes gazing into the distance. "My son, after your parents moved to America, they gave me some money. I used it to start a small food business in the market. I even rented a small apartment. Life was good at first." Vincent listened quietly, nodding. But then things changed. Prices of food went up. Customers stopped coming. My goods would spoil. Most days, I left the market with nothing. She paused, her voice growing weaker. One day, my landlord came demanding rent. I begged him to give me time, but he refused. A few weeks later, he came with men and threw my things outside. Vincent's eyes widened. He did what? She nodded. Yes. I had no choice. I packed what I had and moved into my shop. I slept there on the floor. Her hands trembled as she continued. Then, one night, a group of men broke in. They stole all the money I had made that month, my phone, and most of my stock. They had a gun. Vincent's fists clenched, but he stayed silent. After that, the shop owner came and said, "If you can't pay, leave." I pleaded. But she locked it up and sent me out. Tears slipped down Vincent's face. He turned his head slightly, trying not to break in front of her. "Mama," he whispered, "you went through all that?" She nodded, wiping her own eyes with the back of her hand. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Vincent sat in silence, emotions storming within him. He had found her, but she had lived through things no one should ever endure. And now, it was his turn to make things right. After his emotional conversation with the old woman, the one who had once carried him on her back as a boy, Vincent stepped into his study, closed the door, and sat still for several minutes. The weight of everything she'd said pressed heavy on his chest. Then, without hesitation, he reached for his phone. He dialed his site engineer. "Good morning, sir," the engineer answered promptly. "Morning," Vincent replied, his voice calm but deliberate. "I have an urgent project for you." "I'm listening, sir." "I want you to begin construction on a 4-bedroom bungalow," Vincent said. "Nothing too fancy, but it must be solid. Peaceful surroundings. Comfortable space. I want it ready in 2 months. 2 months, the engineer echoed. "Yes," Vincent confirmed. "It's for someone very special. She's moving in as soon as it's done." The engineer paused for a moment. "Understood, sir. Consider it done." And just like that, a new plan began. Construction started the following week. Workers arrived early, mixing cement, laying bricks, and shaping Vincent's vision. The house began to rise, one layer at a time, in a quiet area near Lekki, surrounded by trees and distant from the city's noise. A few weeks later, Vincent decided to visit the site in person. He wanted to see the progress for himself. He drove down in his black SUV, stepped out quietly, and walked across the sandy ground. The house was halfway done, the skeleton of the building already standing. The walls were up, the roof frame in place, though not yet covered. As he walked slowly across the site, something in the corner of his eye made him stop. A young woman, dressed in a faded t-shirt and scarf, walked past him with a heavy block balanced on her head. Her shirt was soaked with sweat, her hands coated in cement, her face focused. Vincent blinked. That face. That walk. Could it be? He took a step forward, squinting slightly as she came closer. His heartbeat picked up speed. "Caroline," he called softly. She froze mid-step. Her body stilled. Slowly, she turned. Their eyes met. Her lips parted. "Sir, it's you." For a moment, they just stood there, both equally stunned. The weight of all that had happened between them hung in the air like something sacred and unspoken. Vincent stepped forward, not taking his eyes off hers. "You know," he began, his voice low and steady, "the day I was told that a young woman found my wallet, full of foreign cash, and returned it without touching a single note. I was stunned." Caroline's eyes stayed fixed on him. Her hands tightened around the block she still held. Vincent continued, his gaze intense. "I plan to reward you properly. I waited for your call. But now, seeing you here, carrying blocks under this harsh sun, doing the kind of work even many men avoid, and knowing you still didn't take anything from that wallet." He shook his head, disbelief in his voice. "It makes me admire you even more. This wasn't just the end of a struggle. It was the beginning of something new. Something unexpected. Something beautiful." And as for Vincent, he didn't just regain a lost wallet that day. He found someone who reminded him what real wealth looks like. Someone honest. Someone real. Someone worth everything. Thank you so much for watching part 1 of this story. If you'd love to see what happens next between Caroline and Vincent, whether love blossoms, what challenges come their way, and how their journey continues, let us know in the comments. Continue the story. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to see part 2. See you in the next chapter.